Shattered confidence area. Taylor's fingers trembled slightly as they hovered above her keyboard. The email that had just appeared in her inbox bore the subject line that had been circulating through office rumors for weeks. Company restructuring individual consultations. She took a deep breath and adjusted her hearing aids discreetly. At 32, Arya had worked as a software developer at Pinnacle Solutions for 5 years, steadily climbing the ranks despite the challenges posed by her partial hearing loss. Her condition wasn't immediately obvious to colleagues. She'd become adept at reading lips and positioning herself strategically in meetings, but it required constant accommodation that she largely managed herself. "Hey, did you get the email too?" Marco from the adjacent cubicle rolled his chair toward her desk, his voice pitched just loud enough for her to hear clearly, a thoughtfulness she appreciated about him. "Yeah." She nodded, trying to keep her expression neutral. "Scheduled for tomorrow at 10 a.m. "Mine's at 9:15, Marco said, his brow furrowing. "Sounds like they're doing the whole department." "Think it's as bad as people are saying?" Arya shrugged, though internally her stomach clenched. "Hard to say. The quarterly numbers weren't great." After Marco rolled back to his desk, Arya opened her project dashboard. Her productivity metrics were good, better than good in some areas. But she'd requested accommodations twice in the past year for specialized equipment. With each request, she'd noticed subtle shifts in how certain managers interacted with her. Nothing overt, nothing she could definitively call discrimination, but enough to plant seeds of doubt. That evening, Arya's apartment felt emptier than usual. She stood at her kitchen window, watching the city lights flicker while absently running her fingers, all 10 of them perfectly normal, through her chestnut hair. Her phone buzzed with a text from her sister Olivia. "How are you holding up? Heard about the Pinnacle restructuring." News traveled fast in their industry. Arya typed back with both hands. "Consultation tomorrow. Trying not to panic. You're their best developer. They'd be idiots to let you go." Arya smiled faintly, appreciating her sister's unwavering support, but Olivia didn't understand the subtle ways disability could affect professional perceptions. Arya had seen it before at her previous company, how colleagues with accommodations were the first to be deemed not the right fit during downsizing. She placed her phone down and walked to her bathroom, staring at her reflection. 2 hazel eyes looked back at her with uncertainty. She gripped the counter with both hands, 10 fingers pressing against the cool marble. At that moment, she made a decision. If tomorrow was going to be her last day, she wouldn't go quietly. She would advocate for herself, would make them see her value beyond any perceived limitations. The next morning, Arya dressed with particular care, a navy blazer over a cream blouse, her most professional armor. As she walked through Pinnacle's glass doors, she spotted Nathan Riley, the company's CEO, speaking with the HR director in the lobby. Tall and imposing with prematurely silver-streaked dark hair, Nathan had always seemed unapproachable. He glanced her way briefly, his expression unreadable, before continuing his conversation. Arya felt a chill. The CEO himself was involved in the restructuring meetings? This was worse than she'd imagined. She squared her shoulders and headed toward the elevators, determined to fight for her place. She had until 10 a.m. to prepare her case, to convince them that her disability didn't define her capabilities. What she couldn't know was that this confrontation would change both their lives forever. Part 2. The desperate plea. The office seemed unusually quiet as Arya made her way to the conference room for her 10 a.m. meeting. Her heart pounded so loudly she worried it might interfere with her hearing aids. When she opened the door, she was surprised to find not the HR representative she expected, but Nathan Riley himself sitting alone at the table. "Ms. Taylor, please have a seat," he said, gesturing with one hand while the other held her employee file. His deep voice was clear enough for her to hear without straining. Arya sat across from him, folding her hands, all 10 fingers intertwined tightly, on the table. "I wasn't expecting the CEO to handle individual consultations," she said, attempting to keep her voice steady. "I'm personally overseeing certain key positions," Nathan replied, his blue eyes scanning her file. "Your department head has flagged your position for potential elimination." The words hit her like physical blows. "May I ask why?" "My performance metrics exceed expectations consistently." "It's not about performance," Nathan explained, leaning back slightly. We're consolidating teams and your specialized role may become redundant. Something in his tone, a practiced detachment, ignited a spark of desperation in Arya. 5 years of proving herself, of working twice as hard to compensate for a condition she never chose, couldn't end like this. "Mr. Riley," she began, her voice wavering, "please don't fire me." She hadn't planned to mention her disability, but the words tumbled out. "I'm disabled. Finding another position that accommodates my hearing impairment will be significantly more difficult for me than for others being let go." Nathan's expression shifted subtly. "Your disability isn't a factor in this decision, Ms. Taylor." "It never is officially," Arya said, her composure cracking. "But we both know accommodations are seen as expenses, not investments." To her horror, tears welled in her eyes. She brushed them away with both hands. "I've never used my condition as an excuse. I've adapted, compensated. I just need a chance to continue proving my value." Something unexpected happened then. Nathan's professional facade seemed to crumble. He set down her file and ran his fingers through his silver-streaked hair. "Ms. Taylor, Arya," he said, his voice softer, "I understand more than you might think." Then, in a gesture that left Arya speechless, Nathan Riley, the intimidating CEO who rarely interacted with employees below executive level, slowly sank to his knees beside her chair. "I'm not mocking you," he quickly clarified, seeing her shocked expression. "I'm showing you I hear you, truly hear you." His eyes, now level with hers, held something she couldn't quite identify. "Your position isn't being eliminated. I'm overriding that recommendation right now." Arya stared at him, two eyes wide with disbelief. "I don't understand." "You will," Nathan said, rising and returning to his seat. "Your perspective is actually exactly what this company needs right now." He hesitated, then added, "I'd like to discuss a different role for you, one that would leverage your unique insights." As Arya left the conference room 30 minutes later, her job secure and a surprising new opportunity on the horizon, she couldn't shake the image of Nathan Riley on his knees, a powerful man humbling himself in a gesture of profound understanding. A week after the restructuring meetings, Arya found herself in Nathan's office, surrounded by diagrams and proposals for a company-wide accessibility initiative he wanted her to lead. She still couldn't quite believe the turn of events. "These are excellent starting points," Nathan said, his sleeves rolled up to his elbows as he gestured toward her ideas with both arms. "But I think we can go further." Arya nodded, still adjusting to this new dynamic with the CEO. "May I ask what sparked your interest in accessibility? It seems very personal to you." Nathan paused, his 10 fingers momentarily stilling on the document he'd been reviewing. For a moment, Arya thought he might deflect the question, but instead, he walked to his desk and picked up a framed photograph. "My daughter, Sophie," he said, handing Arya the picture of a smiling girl of about 8. She was born with significant hearing loss in both ears. Understanding washed over Arya. "That's why you reacted the way you did in our meeting." "Partly," Nathan admitted. "When you spoke about your experiences, I heard echoes of what I fear Sophie will face someday." He sat down across from her, his professional demeanor giving way to something more vulnerable. "I'm a single father. Her mother couldn't handle the challenges and left when Sophie was 3. "I'm sorry," Arya said softly. "That must have been difficult for both of you." "It was." "It is," Nathan acknowledged. "I've kept my personal life separate from work, but when you spoke—" He shook his head. "I couldn't maintain that separation." As they continued working through the afternoon, Nathan shared more about Sophie's journey with cochlear implants and speech therapy. Arya found herself opening up about her own experiences, the exhaustion of lip reading all day, the social isolation, the constant need to prove herself. "I've never discussed this with anyone at work before," she admitted. "I've never discussed Sophie with colleagues either," Nathan replied. "It's strange how keeping these parts of ourselves hidden feels necessary, when sharing them could actually lead to better understanding." When Arya stood to leave hours later, Nathan hesitantly asked, "Would you be willing to meet Sophie sometime? She doesn't have many adult role models who share her experience." The request caught Arya off guard, but she found herself nodding. "I'd like that." As she gathered her papers, their hands briefly touched, 10 fingers accidentally brushing against 10 others, sending an unexpected current between them. They both pulled back quickly, Nathan clearing his throat and Arya feeling a flush rise to her cheeks. "I'll email you about that meeting," Nathan said, suddenly formal again. Walking to her car later, Arya realized the nature of their relationship had fundamentally shifted. The walls between CEO. Rebuilding together. The whispers started 3 months after the restructuring. Hushed conversations that stopped when Arya entered rooms, knowing glances when she and Nathan interacted at work. Despite their efforts to remain professional in the office, their relationship had become the subject of company speculation. "People are talking," Arya told Nathan during their lunch in a quiet restaurant far from the office. Her hands, both slightly trembling, wrapped around her water glass. "They're saying I kept my job because of us." Nathan reached across the table, his fingers interlacing with hers. "Let them talk. Your work speaks for itself. The accessibility initiatives you've implemented have already improved productivity across departments." It was true. Under Arya's leadership, Pinnacle had transformed. From simple changes like captioned company videos to major investments in adaptive technology, the company had become a model of inclusive workplace design. Even more importantly, they'd hired 3 more employees with various disabilities, sending a clear message about the company's values. "I'm proud of what we've accomplished," Arya acknowledged, "but I don't want people thinking I slept my way into this position. The timeline doesn't even support that," Nathan pointed out with a wry smile. "You had the position before we ever kissed." Later that week, Nathan made an unexpected announcement at the company all-hands meeting. Standing at the podium, he addressed the rumors head-on. "Some of you have noticed that Ms. Taylor and I have developed a personal relationship," he stated, his 2 eyes scanning the crowd with confidence rather than shame. "This occurred after her promotion and is separate from our professional responsibilities. However, to ensure there is no conflict of interest, Ms. Taylor will now report directly to our COO rather than to me." The murmurs in the room faded as he continued. "More importantly, I want to thank Ms. Taylor for showing all of us that diversity isn't just a corporate buzzword. It's a strength that makes us better." That evening, as they walked along the riverfront, both wearing casual clothes, their 4 legs matching stride for stride, Arya finally asked the question that had been on her mind. "That day in the conference room when you knelt down, was that only because of Sophie?" Nathan stopped, turning to face her fully. "Sophie was part of it, but in that moment I saw something in you that I'd been searching for in myself. Courage to be vulnerable, to stand in your truth." His hands found her waist. "You changed me before I ever fell in love with you." The words hung in the air between them, the first time either had named the emotion that had grown from their shared wounds and healing. "I love you too," Arya replied, her arms, both of them, wrapping around his neck as she kissed him. 6 months later, when Pinnacle Solutions won a national award for workplace inclusion, it was Arya who took the stage to accept it, her engagement ring catching the light. In the audience, Nathan sat with Sophie, both of them watching proudly as the woman who had transformed their company and their lives spoke eloquently about the strength found in vulnerability and the power of being seen for one's whole self. What had begun with a desperate plea had become a journey of rebuilding, not just a company culture, but 2 hearts that had found unexpected healing in each other.